So, you think a student is bad just because they're having trouble with different supervisors? Well, maybe you need to stop and think and try to realize that no child is any more educated than you are. You should know that, and you should know they don't do any better job than you do. And when it comes to teaching at all, you gotta remember that. See, some of us just don't realize the analogy of the situation, and they think they have a right to train a student how to adapt to different supervisors. And that's just not the way to do it. There is no such thing as adapting to someone who does not behave in an adaptable manner. Supervisor or any social role whatsoever. No matter what the social role is, they act adaptable, get adapted, and that's the way it works. That's the way science works. Adapting to any person never happens without its partner of acting in an adaptable manner. In this page, you may be surprised to find what happens when a teacher tries to train a student to adapt to changes in routine or to different supervisors. It makes the student look responsible for the way the teacher changed the routine for no reason. And holding somebody responsible for things doesn't teach them. Unless maybe they're the ones who actually were responsible. Other than that, it's just denting people. It really makes a student feel ashamed with a teacher who has an impatient attitude, and then they end up in a punishment they didn't even deserve. Some of them have even ran out of the school building and caused liability to the school that could never be paid off. It even costs the student their progress to have to put up with all sorts of things that a supervisor does that isn't kind. Sometimes a student will go out of his mind and try shoving their desk forward or attempt to use a slingshot, and that's a bad thing to do. Some students get hostile with a teacher, which leads to trouble with the law, and some students, they end up going to a behavior school where there's just no way at all. Some even don't get to go to school at all, and they're growing to be rebels, which is just what this black and white stripes resembles. If you take a look real close at these chemical reactions to primary wrong behaviors, you'll see just how the motions go between clear sugar and then how the effects of sulfuric acid eventually change it to a point where it just turns pretty yucky. And then here you can see just what happens with an untold, unadaptable story. That's just what happens. And something you gotta also keep in mind. When it comes to someone who's behaving in an unadaptable manner, there is no such thing as only if you let it in this case. The only way only if you let it really works is by keeping in mind person has to be responsible for what they've done wrong in order to have to take that for an answer. And you should know that that's not right at all. People who talk like that are really not your helpers. All they're doing is just trying to make you look guilty. Don't ever do that to someone. They really have no business messing with you if they think you're responsible for someone else's behavior. And take a look at these silhouette board samples of black and white stripes. They've already made red ones to talk about somebody who died in a domestic violence situation, but these black and white striped person silhouette boards indicate somebody who's been in trouble with the law to a person who behaved in an unadaptable manner, and it tells the disposition of the case so everybody can see what's wrong. This is very important, and it tells kind of what happened in the situation and what needs fixing to help get it all worked out, if you see what I mean. People who do those things are really not that good. In fact, if you take a look at this list that goes all the way down for 2 pages long, this tells all the behaviors that are unadaptable and how they affect others. So what you do is pause for just a minute and then take the time to read it and then let me know when we're done and then we'll carry on. Great job. And I think you can see pretty darn well this is very important. This is an important concept. Everybody's got to be able to grip this. There's no such thing as behaviors like these not hurting you. And so you got to really make sure we do well. And this is what happens if we take the time to act in an adaptable manner and leave the inability to adapt to changes in routine to the neurophysicist. A student would probably be able to handle the changes in routine a whole lot better without having to deal with so much stuff. And then it helps them be responsible for their own behavior because the teacher is doing so also. Prevents students from wanting to run out of the school building and causing liability to the school. It offers students more choices than those cheap ones. Makes it a lot easier too. And students become more willing to listen to you and avoid having to act up at you in every way. There's no need for a student having to be hostile and never have to visit the courthouse for their behavior. And more students go to public schools and learning becomes more epidemic to be able to support our economy for jobs. You see what I mean? So here's the deal. If there's a chance at all somebody is behaving in an unadaptable manner and causing you serious trouble, you make sure you dial the star on your phone 7 times and report it. And that's what happens. And also, something else. If it is reported you've been treating someone in an unadaptable manner, a couple things are gonna go into effect. We'll make sure everything makes you feel miserable, and it will tell you what to do to prevent it. And that's what's gonna happen if this has to be tolerated. And we mean it too. I mean, the way you behave, prejudiced behavior, your thoughtless thinking, has ruined people's freedom, and you should know that. Good day, everyone.